Governor, first of all, thank you for spending time with us on POTUS.
Well, thank you for having us.
I want to ask you, first of all, today about your deal. Delta is buying an old refinery. This is an unusual business story, but it's also one that's obviously good news for your state because it means jobs are staying in your state. We don't hear so little about that these days.
Well, from the state perspective, we really love it because it does keep not only the jobs of the people working at the refinery, over 400 jobs, but it also has an effect upon the town itself of Trainer, the county, Delaware County down there in the southeast, but also on all the people who have jobs that are related to either directly or indirectly, and that's thousands of jobs. But I also think it's a interesting model, business model of what Delta is doing, and I think they talked about it today. 80% of their fuel needs will be met by this facility, and they are going to be able to control their costs. They believe that they'll save $400 million a year on their fuel costs by doing this. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure the business community will be watching it closely.
And as I said, it's been a paucity of great news on the economy in a lot of different ways. How is Pennsylvania doing since you took over as governor? You've had a little over a year under your belt, and things obviously were not great when you came in, nationally or even in the state. How are you today?
Well, we're better than we were when I came in. We had a $4.2 billion deficit. When I came in, we reduced our budget by $2 billion, one of the few states that reduced it, and we're going to stay at about the same level this time as we build the budget. People are going back to work. Our unemployment rate is 0.7 of a point below the national average, and in the last 4 months it keeps ticking down 0.1 of a point at the same time. We are starting to see our revenues go above anticipated rates, and that is a good sign. Although we did see that at the same time last year, and I was able to prevent the legislature from viewing that as a surplus when you have a budget deficit of $4.2 billion, and we're going to probably have that same problem. We have an advantage, I think, over a lot of states because we are an energy state. The natural gas, the Marcellus natural gas, here the coal are tremendous assets to Pennsylvania. In addition to the refinery and the work there, as you may know, Royal Dutch Shell just announced that they have an intention of building a ethylene cracker facility in southwestern Pennsylvania in Beaver County, which is going to provide, when they start the construction, thousands and thousands of construction jobs, hundreds of jobs when the facility is built, but it will start a remanufacturing base in southwestern Pennsylvania with petrochemical plants coming to use that ethane.
You have a Republican General Assembly, correct? Has that made things any easier for you, or is it something that makes it a little more difficult to wrangle the votes?
Well, sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's a little more difficult. It depends upon the issue. I have a Republican majority in the House and the Senate, but there are spectrums to that majority also, from moderate to conservative, and to work with those two. Sometimes it's difficult for the leaders to get everybody on board, but we've accomplished a great deal. We had property tax reform last year when it came to the school property tax. We had tort reform. This year we got voter ID. So, in addition to balancing a budget and stopping spending that had gone out of control, which we didn't have the revenues to match the spending that we were at, I'm very proud of what the legislature has done.
There's a lot of governors around the state, and I know you talk to them all the time. They're experiencing the same problem. Lower revenues, you can't tax your way to get back to balanced budget. You have to make the hard decisions to cut things. Are you anticipating that you were going to have to make more cuts this year? Are you having to target things? Are you feeling fairly safe that you can at least maintain status quo?
Well, it's hard to maintain status quo when the pension issue is one that continues to grow and takes more money away. So while we don't anticipate going much further down in what we would spend, a greater portion will be going to pensions. For instance, right now I believe our pension contribution in this year's budget is $1.1 billion out of 27. The fiscal year that we're working on is 1.6. In 4 years, 2016, it's going to be $4.6 billion. And I had discussions with the leadership just yesterday that we have to address this issue. It's unsustainable. It will continue to eat away from the budget and prevent us from putting money into education, into the social services, into all the other areas that we need to be building the state in.
Washington, D.C. is so polarized right now. Do you experience the same situation? There are so many tough decisions, and people are watching Washington on things like sequestration cuts, on the Bush tax cuts and so on. Do you experience that on a lower scale statewide in Pennsylvania, or is there a sense that, there's hard work to be done and we can get it done?
Well, I'm going to say the latter. There's hard work to be done and we can get it done. I have the advantage of working totally with a Republican legislature to get the votes that we need, although sometimes we had to cross the aisle and get the Democrats to vote. I believe that when we talk about the pension issue in these months ahead and into next year, the Democrats are also going to have to participate in this because it doesn't matter who the governor is and who is in charge of the legislature, they're going to have to deal with unsustainable burdens that we have. But there are some other issues that we are polarized. The voter ID vote was one of them. The Republicans voted for it. The Democrats voted against it. That's a philosophical issue. But, Pennsylvania has shades of Democrats, shades of Republicans. It's a registered Democrat state by over 1 million voters, yet I've won it 3 times as a Republican and a conservative Republican.
Well, give us a sense of the electoral map when we talk about, say, fall election 2012. You have a senator. Senator Casey is up for re-election. Of course, the president is going to probably take Pennsylvania by most counts. Do you think that it's possible that a Republican could win? Could Mitt Romney win in Pennsylvania? Give us your sense also of maybe some of the congressional races, if there are things that you're watching very closely.
Well, on the presidential, I think it's much tighter than what you indicated at this point. The enthusiasm for President Obama is not at the level today that it was 4 years ago. I ran as an attorney general in the same presidential cycle, and so I know that the people go back and forth. I won by over 3 million votes at that time. That was a huge win for a Republican to get something like that. So the people will go back and forth, but they're looking at the president, they're looking at the economy. And he's going to be tested on the economy, and he's going to be asked, and he has a difficult time answering, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago at this time? I don't think the enthusiasm level's out there. Now, when you take a look at the state from an electoral map perspective, the 5 counties of southeastern Pennsylvania make up 40%, and that tends to be a more moderate to liberal area, even among the Republicans. So a Republican, Mitt Romney, would have to win the rest of the state and do well down there, keep the numbers down there. And I think he has the ability to do it. I truly believe it will have a lot to do with the organization and how much money he spends here in Pennsylvania.
Is it about the economy? I mean, is that the message that Romney has to keep pushing?
I think absolutely it's about the economy. Everybody's looking at the price of gas. Right across the street from the governor's residence, there's a gas station with the marquee there, and I can look at the price of gas every day when I come out, and that's what I hear people talking about all the time. We're looking at car sales. Those are going up. But the economy just hasn't taken off. This is a very gradual improvement out of a recession. And considering the debt, the trillions of dollars that are being spent, I think people are looking at it and saying to themselves, we're not better off than we were 4 years ago.
Social issues seem to have dragged down the Republican Party. Mitt Romney nationally, as well as in some states. I know Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell had some issues with the legislature. I know you've had some back and forth issues with things like, for example, requirements before abortion to have, scans and so on. And it just seems that when that comes up, it sets the Republican Party back.
Well, I think when you're looking at it in the broad perspective, it is the Republican Party answering what the base of the party is. The base of the party is conservative. There are some more that are moderate at that point. But when it comes down to the general election, it's going to be the economy. It will not be those other issues.
I hope I'm not going to let a secret out. I'm going to tell people who are listening to the show right now that one of your greatest joys was getting out quickly from the Washington Correspondents Association dinner.
Well, there were 2,800 people in one room. I was wondering about the fire marshal on that one. But being able to be in the back of the room and getting out quickly, because it would have been a mob scene trying to get out of there, and getting back to Harrisburg in about 2 hours.
There are a lot of people who wish a lot of congressmen would feel the same way and maybe get out very quickly.
Well, there's a lot of difference between Harrisburg and Washington, and one of them is I like to get back to Harrisburg and get back to our residents.
Governor Corbett, we appreciate you spending time with us on POTUS. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.